Good evening, everyone. If I could have you take your seats and silence your phones, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would stand and join us for the invocation.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Lord, we gather this evening with gratitude for the opportunity to serve and for the trust placed in us by our community. As this board considers the work before it, we ask for your guidance, wisdom, and steady judgment. As we approach Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, may we be reminded that leadership is rooted in service, dialogue, and respect for one another. Help us to listen thoughtfully, work collaboratively, and make decisions guided by fairness, compassion, and integrity. Bless this board, our dedicated staff, and all the residents of St. Lucie County. May our efforts contribute to a community marked by unity, opportunity, and hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and take a brief recess for our special district meetings and turn it over to mosquito control.
We come together as the Mosquito Control District. First item of business is public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, please come forward at this time.
No.
For mosquito control?
Oh.
No problem. There are no minutes, so we will move to consent.
Approval.
Second.
All right. Nothing on regular agenda, so do we have, motion passes, do we have all in favor? Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Regular agenda, no items, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
That's quick, thank you.
All right, and coming back to our regular meeting, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda. Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There are no presentations. Public comment. We are now at general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come up to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes if you would be so kind as to clearly state your name and address for the secretary.
Hi, my name's Chris Nard, and I run a business called Fortify Financial that is a PACE financier that operates in the state of Florida. So we're everywhere in Florida. Business is headquartered in Miami. Fortify Financial wrote business in St. Lucie County in 2023 under a judicial bond validation that was granted to the Florida PACE Funding Agency. We wrote business for about 3 months. In that period, we did hundreds of assessments in St. Lucie County. When we found out the St. Lucie County Commission and the tax collector was not supportive of that activity, we stopped funding assessments in St. Lucie County. The county and the tax collector sued to have that judicial bond validation overturned. They lost that lawsuit in Tallahassee, March 2024. The judge ruled against them on all counts. Still didn't put the assessments on the tax roll, even though that's what the judge ordered. They appealed to the Supreme Court on December 15th. The Supreme Court upheld the lower court's ruling, and again, the tax collector has to put them on the tax roll. Now that the courts have run the system on this, we hope we can get these on the tax roll. This had to have been hugely expensive for St. Lucie. The tax collector, it's been hugely expensive for the FPFA and hugely expensive for us to manage this through the court system. And then I think the thing that gets forgotten here is it's been hugely disruptive to the hundreds of homeowners we've financed here. So this year we have 185 assessments that are due to be on the tax roll. We bill these directly now. And about 50% of the people pay, 50% of the people don't pay. So if these assessments don't get placed on the tax roll for this payment in March, these people could be, 50% of them could be 3 payments behind on their PACE assessment. And these are recorded liens on the property. So if they go to refinance, if rates come down or they go to sell the property, they're going to get caught because those liens are going to have to be paid off. So we think it's best if these things can get on the tax roll per both of these courts' orders as soon as possible, so these people have a chance to start making plans to make the payments. So again, 50% of the people paid, 50% of the people didn't pay. So to continue to not put these on the rolls really puts the 50% who aren't paying further behind and almost rewards the behavior of not honoring those obligations. So we're here to help in any way we can get this facilitated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are still open for public comment if there's anyone else wishing to address the board. Good evening.
Hey, my name is David Zamora. I work with Fortify as well. I'm local Floridian in Miami, and I've been on the ground working with homeowners and local businesses. And as Chris mentioned, when Fortify learned of the objection of certain counties, we stopped originating in those counties right away, and we actually began working with local counties and the legislature to pass SB 770 that went into effect July 24th. That required that all PACE have interlocal agreements with counties and the special district. So we can't just write business anymore. We've solved that problem. And with that resolved, we want to continue to work with the county and the tax collector to eliminate the confusion that homeowners have who got their needed repairs for roofs and windows and things like that. Chris mentioned taxes are due here March 31st, so this is a pressing issue, and I'd just like to ask that we work together to solve it ASAP. With that, I'll relinquish the rest of my time.
Thank you. We are still under public comment. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Is it possible to put this PACE concern on the formal meeting in February and talk about it? I mean, it is something I think we need to talk about and see if we're going to resolve it or not.
Absolutely. I was just going to refer over to Mr. Landry because I literally on yesterday's meeting asked, obviously we're not the tax collector. So what is our role, if any, if we're facing a situation where they're not going to be put on the roll? What, if any, authority do we have? So it's something that we've recently spoke about.
So, Madam Chair, I think we can have a educated discussion at the February informal, and then we can also invite the tax collector and his attorney, and that'll give our county attorney some ample time to research everything to kind of be able to explain to the board what left and right range limits that we have, and then let the tax collector give his stance and opinion on it for you guys to talk with him about. But we will coordinate that for February.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. All right. There are no proclamations. We do have 3 sets of minutes. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to pull?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Townsend?
I'd like to pull 10E2, 10I4, and are you going to just mention M1 and M2?
10E2. And what was the second one? I'm sorry.
I didn't know if you wanted to mention about the R money and the sales tax.
I leave that for you. Go for it. What? I do.
Okay, well, let me go back to that then. I wasn't going to do that. Okay, so 10M1 is up for information, and it is, we'd like to let everybody know the infrastructure sales tax. This is the Johnston Road Water Farm District, the emergency culvert repair that is up there from the winery that we've had to replace. And I also want to just give a brief, because I don't know if y'all are receiving calls, I know I am, that this should be finished by mid-February, but make sure you are talking to residents that the culvert to the north side of Meadowwood, the box culvert there, is going to have to be replaced. So once this gets reopened, within 3 weeks, the culvert just north of Meadowwood is going to be shut down for a couple of months. So it will help the people on Johnston right there by the winery. They'll be able to access that, which is the biggest problem because they have a lot of traffic. But the people in Meadowwood are currently being inconvenienced as well. So they're going to have about 2 or 3 weeks before the box culvert gets shut down, and they'll have to go back to the same route they're doing now.
Gotcha.
And then the other one is the Andrea Road Savannah's Wet Pond. You're all familiar with that, I'm sure. And that was just, I want to remind everybody that that was paid for by the American Rescue Plan money.
All right, and then Commissioner Townsend, for the 10E2, is it pulled for a vote or?
Nope,
Are
I
you-
just have comments.
Okay.
So I have a question, actually. So on 10E2, it's the Treasure Coast Homeless Hub. George, is there I'm sure there is a way and a process. Because it's taken so long to get this up and running, there's been, I'm sure, changes. What is the process to be able to have this go back out and be rebid? Because I think there's been more people been made aware of this or didn't know about that. Oh, I'm sorry, it's my case, it's over here. So I think might be, I'm not saying there may be more of an interest in this now that more people know we have it. Where before only 2 people, I think, submitted to the RFP. But I think that there's also some change too, because the Homeless Advisory Board, there's things that we've discussed and we've come up with too, that we can make suggestions towards this as well now, that there should be some maybe additional services. So rather than award this tonight, pull it and go back and let's have more conversations and then put it back out for bid.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Townsend, are you thinking that this is in reference to the homeless shelter that we're going through the remodel and everything like that?
It's not?
This is not that item.
Okay.
No, that one will be coming before you at a different time, but
All right.
that's not this one.
Okay. And
Sorry
then-
about the confusion for that.
That's okay. Maybe I'm the only one that was confused up here. And then on 10I4, I just have a question. I'm glad that they got it back. They know what they're doing, and they have a relationship with staff, and staff goes there. However, what I'd like to see is I know that they're going to have to do the data, which is the things that were not being done since in the past. So the data, that way if we have a question, the community comes forward and they want to ask a question, we can now get the statistics and the data that we couldn't get prior. But also I'd like for this to be a year contract. We are moving into a downturn of the economy, and I want to be able to come back and look at this a year from now, because if, depending on where we are with the economy, maybe go have the conversations with staff that maybe they would rather see this money put into the healthcare plan that helps them with physicians or whatever, or doctors or medicine. So I'm good with doing it. I think everything's fine, but I just want to see that this only be a year contract. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I don't want to do it more than a year. I want to see and hold them accountable, make sure they're doing what's required and asked, and then we'll reevaluate them. And then at that time, we'll go back and move on from there, just to make sure everything's being done properly.
So,
That's
Madam
just my
Chair,
ask.
Commissioners, again, this one here is just we'll take those notes by all means and we'll incorporate, but this is just a request to permission to negotiate, but the intent from staff is if that is approved tonight, we're going to meet with each of you individually, get your concerns, get a contract negotiated, drafted. It will come back before this board, fully transparent, fully there, and we'll make sure it meets all your intents. But tonight, there's no contract being approved, no nothing. This is just to go to start the negotiation. But
And
we
I
wanted
know,
to-
I know that, but I didn't want you to go through negotiations and talking to them and say it's a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract or a 3 with renewables or whatever. I want it to be on the up and up. This is only going to, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how the other 4 feel, this is only for 1 year. I didn't want this to move forward, more conversations, and then this come up before us, and then it come out again. So I just wanted it on the record that I'm only good moving this forward if it's for a year. If it's more than a year, I'm not in favor of it.
And we will definitely take that into consideration. We also wanted to make sure that we give each of you an opportunity to meet one-on-one before we even talk to the vendor, to make sure there's anything else before we even go have it. So the plan was, if it moves tonight, we're going to meet with you all first before we even engage, and then we would get that collaborative information, go try to negotiate, and then come back and brief you on that. So we won't be doing any conversation with the vendor until after we speak with you all, if it moves tonight. If it don't, then it doesn't. But that's what the plan was, and it will still have to come back before the board for final approval.
All right, so Mr. Landry, I'm going to ask you, from me personally, in moving forward so that I don't have these misunderstandings, if you could let me know that in more depth in our meetings when we meet one-on-one and go over that with me so that I understand that prior to coming in here, because I didn't get that from the language that was up inside all of this.
Madam
All
Chair,
right?
Commissioner, that will
Thank you.
absolutely happily do so. That was the plan this week, but I think there was a scheduling conflict and we didn't get a chance to meet
Okay,
before this.
thank you. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Cosby.
just going on Commissioner Townsend's comment regarding is it I-4. I also shared the sentiment. I finally came to, accept that I would be willing to entertain it for another year. I do, and since the beginning of this, I've been kind of questioning that service a little bit, and I think that we should make our insurance plan itself more robust moving forwards. And I'm not the foremost expert in insurance, but I'm learning more every day. But I just don't see how, as a user of our insurance policy, I know there's ways that we could allow more coverage for certain things, for vision and mental health and other sorts of things that are out there. So I want to make sure our employees have the best policy. And if we have extra money to beef up certain areas, I want to make sure we're doing it moving forwards.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
just a quick
Bowman.
comment. Commissioner Townsend, I asked specifically with George yesterday in my meeting that about the same sort of thing. How many years of a contract was it? And he had told me that we're just permission to negotiate, because I do have concerns too, and I'll make sure that we get everything aligned before we move forward with the negotiation. So, kind of feel like we can down the road maybe use the money for other things, but for now, I'm in favor of moving forward with it.
All right. And so with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Before the team leaves, if you would just indulge me for a quick 60 seconds. Something I've been wanting to do several meetings last year, and oftentimes I choose to not speak rather than speak, but I want to make sure we start this year off right, and I want to make sure you guys understand and know how I feel and where I'm at. So I do have some notes here just because I want to make sure that I touch on everything. So, and yes, George and Maite are looking at each other because they have no idea what's coming. So I want to start with a very simple but important thank you. Thank you for the hard work that you do, your dedication and passion that you bring to your jobs every single day. This organization runs because of you. And I know this isn't always easy. You show up in moments that are demanding, stressful, and sometimes thankless. And yet you continue to serve with professionalism, integrity, and heart. And that has not gone unnoticed with me. And I'm sure the rest of this board. I also want to acknowledge something that doesn't always get said out loud, which is at times things can get a little crazy up here, you may have noticed, with 5 elected officials. Debate gets loud, opinions differ, and passions run high. I want you to hear this very clearly and plainly. None of that should ever cause you to doubt your value, worth, or your impact. The noise up here does not define you. Your work does. You are the steady workforce that keeps this organization moving forward regardless of what's happening on this dais. So as we move into 2026, I want to be transparent about my expectations. I want this to be a year where we challenge ourselves. And because of that, I'm going to push us. I'm going to push the organization, I'm going to push for higher standards, and I'm going to push for continuous improvement at every opportunity to do better and be better. And I don't want that push to be viewed as coming from a place of disappointment, disapproval, or negativity, but rather from a place of confidence. Confidence in knowing that even with all we've achieved, we can achieve more. I believe deeply in this team, and I promise you this. When I push, it's because I see potential, not problems. I see a team that can lead, innovate, and serve our community at the highest level. And I know we can make the year ahead the strongest one yet. So thank you very much, you guys. Have a great evening. And with that, we're going to move into public hearings. Good evening, Barb.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Barbara Getler, MSBU Coordinator. The board created the Culvert Assistance Program to give property owners the option to fund the replacement of failed culverts through non-ad valorem assessments. Today's resolution is the assessment resolution as required by county ordinance. The purpose of this resolution relates to the imposition and collection of special assessments to fund stormwater culvert improvements within the MSBU, determine that real property therein will be specially benefited, establish the method of assessing the cost of the improvements, and approve the assessment roll. Staff recommends board approval of resolution number 2026-3 and authorization for the chair to sign documents as approved by the county attorney.
All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, I'll come back to the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just want to say, Madam Chair, Barb, as always, thank you. You're a very small department. You do mighty things, and this is one of our best programs that we have, and you work very hard. So
Thank you very
for all that
much.
you do.
All right, moving on. Planning and Development, Old Castle Conditional Use Permit. Thad, Corey, good evening, guys.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Happy New Year. Instead of pulling up the presentation for this major adjustment to a conditional use, I will highlight that Old Castle, an established manufacturing facility, is deemed to be a St. Lucie County targeted industry with their production of goods that are sold both locally and abroad.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for the record, Thad Crow, Senior Planner. Brief presentation here for this item. This is a future land use amendment, but this, again, wrong one. Thank you. New contact lenses, breaking them in. Old Castle, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's a major adjustment to an existing conditional use permit. And we did fulfill our public notice responsibilities with posting of the site provided by the applicant, a mailer sent to those within 500 feet, and then, of course, an ad in the newspaper. We did send out 14 letters to neighbors along with the conditional use response forms. We did not receive any back. We had a community meeting on December 9th. One nearby property owner showed up and expressed support for the project. Aerial map shows location in the Midway Industrial Park, north of Midway and east of Glades Cutoff. You can see similar industrial type uses surrounding the property on the aerial. Future land use map shows that this is industrial, predominantly the land use in the area, purple color. I think that the excellent access and location helps promote development of the Midway Industrial Park on an ongoing basis. Zoning, similarly, industrial heavy. And this gives you a feel for the neighborhood, what's around it in the industrial park. This is actually the subject property here. The top photo is the entrance, the northern entrance, and clockwise, it's basically the Jenkins Road side in the lower right, and then the lower left is the south entrance from Environment Drive. This conditional use permit dates back to 1999, and it was approved for the manufacturing of basically pavers, architectural stone, masonry blocks, and sand and aggregate for the development and construction in the area. The plant uses heavy machinery to mix and form products. The building that's there is just over 40,000 square feet, and the applicant wants to add about 12,000 square feet. The more than 25% of bulk increases triggers the review, major conditional use review, as we are looking at now. The site plan, you can see the site plan here. The orange areas are the proposed additions to the existing buildings. Basically, they're kind of retooling the facility and adding these new additions to increase efficiency and production. Without getting too much into, it is a complex process. I certainly had learned a lot on this, but The process begins with truckloads of aggregates, sand and gravel delivered to the site, which are conveyed into storage bins north of the towers. You see in the upper right, the cement is pneumatically offloaded into the towers, and then the raw materials are basically combined and conveyed to the mixer tower. This batch concrete then goes inside the building via conveyor belt, where it's formed into molds, and those wet concrete blocks are put in a curing building to where they get their final shape, and the cured blocks are then basically chipped, so you can have those hexagonal pavers or whatever kind of design you want. And they also bag up the aggregates, sand, and gravel, and the pallets of blocks and aggregates are basically moved to the storage yard, outdoor storage yard. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. This is in keeping with the future land use of industrial, and allows for heavy industrial. It's important to allow for this in the county and in appropriate areas to attract businesses and employment. Areas designated with this industrial classification have to have necessary services, which they do, water and sewer, and it is the benefit of being buffered, being a great distance, over 1,000 feet, I believe, from any nearby residential. So any noise impacts, other impacts will not be absorbed by nearby residential. Comprehensive plan, Corey mentioned targeted industry. This is something that we're trying to promote, targeted industries such as this. Consistency with the land development code. It is consistent with the IH zoning district. There is a height limit of 80 feet. The towers will be just under that, so it is allowable. The site basically will not be changed except for those additions to the building that you saw in the orange. And of course, still subject to the noise ordinance. Again, this is the neighborhood around it. The buildings immediately surround it, including a building supply, truck sales, pipe manufacturer, metal supplier, and across Jenkins Road, a vacant industrial building. So you can see that it's got a pretty industrial character that's well established. This is an important graphic here. It's a little hard to read sometimes, I think, but if you look on the right-hand side, there's your 6-foot-tall person who is looking toward those 78-foot-tall towers. And as you can see, the tree canopy across Midway Road will definitely block those towers, which you can see on the left-hand side. It's the line of sight exhibit. Thank you, curvature of the earth. Adequate public facilities. Again, we have paved roads, police and fire protection, solid waste pickup, stormwater, central water and sewer. There are no additional trips anticipated. It is served by fire station number 6. It's east, 4 miles east on Midway Road. Environmental impacts. There was not a landscape plan on file, so the applicant was good enough to recreate that landscape plan. ERD reviewed it and determined compliance. With the addition of 1 tree in the parking lot, the existing trees meet the buffer requirements. This gives you an idea of the greenery that surrounds it. This is from Jenkins Road. No impacts to native trees. Really no expansion except those limited additions are planned. And of course, it's a good thing that they are going to be removing the exotics that have crept in over the years. So we do recommend approval with 5 conditions, essentially in keeping with the site plan and landscape plan. Comply with the noise ordinance, the shielding, downcasting of exterior lighting to minimize that light trespass and glare. Prior to the certificate of occupancy issuance, the invasive plants would be eradicated, and prior to development commencement, tree removal permit shall be issued by ERD. Updated listed species survey shall be provided, and any listed species found unlikely shall require appropriate permits. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you,
And the
Zach.
applicant is here also.
Okay, perfect. Before we go any further on this one, because it is quasi-judicial, I want to go ahead and do the disclosures and remind everyone, not only do we need to disclose the name, but provide a little snippet of what we talked about as well. Commissioner Clasby, I'll start with you.
I spoke with staff regarding the application and just a general overview of it.
Commissioner Lowry.
Ben and Corey, and talked about the addition of 2 new towers and the building modifications.
I also am Ben and Corey, and we discussed the general overview of the project, similar to what we just saw.
And I also been in Corey and discussed the overview of the project.
Commissioner Townsend?
I briefly spoke to them, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the applicant.
Gotcha. All right. So with this, if the applicant would like to, do they have a presentation? Do they want to come up? No? Okay. All right. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, I'm going to come back to the board.
Madam Chair?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Klasky, go ahead.
Just before we go forward, I just think it's important to point out, it's not that it's going to cause any issues with this project, but I think it's exciting to kind of see the future. This area will have the Jenkins Road extension at some point going by it. I don't know if the staff could put up the map really quick, but just to kind of visualize that, one day we'll be driving by this and it'll be a nice major new northwest connecting roadway here in St. Lucie County. So eventually we will have that connecting. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. All right, thank you. And if there's nothing else, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you very much. And we're going to go into the Fort Pierce Commerce Center.
Nope. Madam Chair, Commissioners, again, for the record, Thad Crow, Senior Planner. Now, we're going to do this one. This is the Fort Pierce Commerce Center Future Land Use Map Amendment, and important to note, this is a transmittal hearing. This does not, your vote tonight does not, as you know, does not indicate approval in any form. It just means you'd like to send it off to the state for review for state and regional agencies. We did comply with the public hearing requirements, including posting, mailing, and ad in the newspaper. The aerial map shows the location on South Kings Highway, west of 95 and Copenhagen Road. It is an interesting area because you've got the transition with industrial and commercial popping up, moving down from the north, but you've got an existing residential community to the east on Copenhagen and to the south on Samba Street. So it does require some care in terms of design and planning. You can see also there is kind of a enclave, I'm not sure if that's the right word, stalactite. It is a parcel that is partially surrounded by the property, and this is not an issue for the land use amendment, but the applicant has been very good about working with the owner of this property to provide access because they're kind of landlocked, but that's an issue for the plan development when it comes back. And that just shows that briefly that the access will be through this development to that parcel. So we think that's a pretty good solution. The future land use map is a little bit of a hodgepodge. You've got MXD to the north. You've got commercial on this site, and then the eastern part of this site is residential urban. So it is split between that. To the west, we have remnant of residential suburban land use, and to the south, special district, which is a Deserta, and again, some residential land use to the south and east, residential urban mostly, and city of Fort Pierce, Samba Street to the south. What is proposed is MXD tried to do a kind of a holistic, unified land use for this that provides for protection to surrounding residences, but also has a cohesive plan for this property. What is proposed, the MXD district, it would be restricted to the industrial land use, and it would require a PNRD, planned non-residential development, would include appropriate open space and buffers adjacent to those residential uses that I mentioned, access via Kings Highway only. So you can see the low intensity area, and then the east is dedicated for open space and buffering, which essentially, when the PNRD comes back, you'll see will be kind of a preserve. We've been seeing some of these preserves in projects lately, which I think is a good thing, preserving the habitat and restoring the habitat, and providing a buffer for adjacent residential. The zoning map shows the transition of this area from former ag area to basically a thriving kind of commerce center area. The Ag 1 and AR1 uses or zoning is being converted over time to commercial and industrial. And this context map shows that this is definitely an epicenter for a fair amount of development lately. The property is here in the bottom part here, and you can see around there existing industrial Kings Highway warehouse, First Source Commerce Park, Deserta down here to the lower left, South Florida Logistics Center, of course the Wawa, the jails over here, American Concrete Industries, and I won't go on. We also have the several large residential PUDs that have been approved in the last year, Pineapple Grove, Serenoa, Eagle Bend. So there's a lot going on in this area. And the advantage of that, I should say, is you've got excellent transportation and access. It is an appropriate area for these type of transitions to occur. So, consistent with the comp plan, this does provide for flexibility. The PRD provides more specific safeguards for the neighbors and environmental preservation. We're setting the table for that now through this future land use map amendment. There would be a conservation easement on the preserve that we mentioned, and we have a very strict policy in the comp plan for such land use amendments that the property has to be adjacent to or not more than a quarter mile of a similar future land use. It is, and has to have utility service available. It will be. The ongoing growth, we have support from future land use element in terms of the ongoing growth will support more jobs. The urban services are available. Property is suitable for the non-resident use with safeguards provided through the PNRD, and the compatibility concerns are addressed with the preserve, concentrating that intensity along Kings Highway and not to the east and rear of the property. Trip generation, about 1,300 daily trips, about 140, 150 or AM or PM peak hour employees. And you can see how these folks kind of fan out on the surface streets and the turnpike on 95. The good news is the levels of service are still pretty good. On 95 is at LOSB, Orange Avenue, LOSC, as is Kings Highway. A northbound, we don't need to get into the specifics, but just there is good access control along Kings Highway, and this property will be accessed by right turn lanes, which again is an issue for the PNRD, but we wanted to just throw it out there to say that it's an appropriate location on a good road. The traffic impact report did conclude that all existing and future roadways, intersections will operate at an acceptable level of service. Planning and Zoning Commission did hold their hearing in December and unanimously recommended approval. We do recommend approval with the of the transmittal to the state with these sub-area policies. Number one, the specific use area is restricted to industrial, basically. Number two, it's required to come in through a PNRD. And number three, access is limited to Kings Highway. Happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair. Thank you. And the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Thad. Any questions to staff as the applicant comes up? Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Commission. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Leslie Olson, Principal with District Planning Group, representing the Fort Pierce Commerce Center. FLUMA transmittal hearing tonight. Thank you, Thad. I'm just going to run through this quickly. Thad did a great job, so there's not a whole lot more for me to say. No. Thad, can you just arrow it through for me? Thanks, Eric. Oh, there we go. Thanks very much. All right, so let's see here. There it is. You've seen it,
You know where it is. One of the interesting things about this particular site is that it is within the Kings Highway Jobs Corridor Study area that the EDC is doing right now, and is collaborating with both the county and the city of Fort Pierce and Fort Pierce Utilities Authority to do a concerted planning effort so that this entire corridor looks a lot like Southern Grove does in the future in terms of the kind and the quality of development and the kind and quality of jobs that are being created to see this come into the unincorporated county. So you'll see here, as Thad mentioned, right now it's commercial and residential urban. When we held our neighborhood meeting with the Copenhagen neighborhood initially, we actually kept some of that residential towards them because we thought that might be a nice buffer to put some more residential up near them. They didn't like that at all. They said, we want to, they said, we don't like the way that this site extends into Copenhagen Road, and we don't want any more traffic or any more access on Copenhagen Road. And we definitely don't want any more residential. And as a matter of fact, we're much more happy with you guys putting industrial on this parcel than any residential at all. So we listened. Our applicant was happy to do that. This was actually the first plan that we showed them. And after they put away their pitchforks and their torches, we said, how about we take all of those large lots that we were going to create back there, and we just leave it as a forested upland and preserve the wetlands, and take out the invasives and put in more wetlands, and we'll put a conservation easement over the whole thing, and no access. And they said, that sounds much better.
Obviously, they're not here tonight.
That's right. We actually had somebody come and speak in favor of it, so at the P&Z, so we were really happy about that. So this entire area that Thad outlined over here, this will be in the comp plan. It's not just in the PNRD, that we will keep that as open space and buffering going forward. Again, this is just a changed condition slide. This has been acknowledged as a jobs corridor area, and it's great. The reason it's a jobs corridor is because of the great access. I mean, who has 3 interstate access points within a mile and a half? That's just phenomenal. That's the plan, but we're not talking about that. At the second neighborhood meeting that we held, there was strong support for the project. And that is it for questions. I have both Bob Rains with Gunster and Luke Lambert as our traffic engineer to answer any questions.
All right, perfect. Really quick, what I'll do so I don't forget, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no movement, close public comment, come back to the board for questions, comments.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Clasby.
So if staff or the applicant could go ahead and put up the future land use map that's being proposed. I've reached out to several of the property owners on this, and to my surprise, most of them were completely fine with it. I thought they were going to demand we flip the building or something, but that wasn't the main concern. There was a little bit of confusion because the future land use map, it's not clear to the lay person of, you know, why is that preserve area not to the, I guess, to the south area there on Samba?
Right.
And I said that, you know, on the site plans that I've seen, that area is actually a retention pond with a wall behind it.
Yes.
Is there any particular reason we can't show that as an open space and buffering on this map just for transparency for them?
We did discuss it, and if it is the desire of the board, we can put it in there.
Does that hurt anything as far as any of the other parameters to the project?
Here's what I don't love about it. And as you know, we have the PNRD ready to come back for your consideration after the transmittal to the state. So it's already designed, it's already planned. The only reason I don't love that is that that is an area that is being cleared and developed as open space. What I like about this is that it's very clear that this is an area not to be touched. And if we just add that as another leg along the south side, if for some reason this doesn't go forward, it could be confusing about what is the area not to be touched and what is just this open space area. I'd rather do that with, say, a sub-area policy than something on the map saying adequate buffering will be provided along the south side or something like that.
mean, I would definitely feel more comfortable if something was codified that that specific area is not being developed in
Right.
a sense that there's going to be a building on it, but
Right.
it will be part of, you know, whatever it's called, the water retention area.
Yeah, we can draft a sub-area policy before we come back, as long as staff is comfortable with that.
Absolutely, Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby. Although the graphic certainly depicts and delineates the intention on the east side, one of the sub-area policies specifically states and shall include appropriate open space and buffers adjacent to residential uses and environmental conditions. I think that gives the board a little bit of latitude. I think staff would look for guidance as to just that, if we're looking for shading, a distinguishable shading on that south side, or clarification within that particular text that addresses the residents to the south as well.
As long as staff thinks that it's fine, I'm good with it. It's just, it makes it a little harder to explain to someone that's not used to planning things when they're like,
Sure.
oh, well, why is this not shaded? So,
Yeah, I understand.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Was that it, Commissioner?
Yep.
Okay. And Commissioner Lee, you leaned forward, did you have? No? All right.
Madam Chair, I'll make a
Commissioner
motion to
Townsend?
approve.
second.
I mean, this is just a transmittal, so let's move it forward, let state look at it and bring it back.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, there is no regular agenda items. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Any commissioner comments?
Madam Chair, I'll just,
Commissioner Townsend.
I don't really have a whole lot. I just want to say, we all know that it's election tonight. I just want to wish both the candidates goodwill, good luck, and I look forward
Yes.
to working with whoever that winner may be. I guess we'll know in about an hour or two.
Yeah.
And hopefully this can move the city forward in a more positive light. So I'm looking forward to our joint meeting moving forward with the new commissioner.
Great.
Madam Chair, I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year and prosperous. We are having a meeting tomorrow with Port St. Lucie, and hopefully after that, the city of Fort Pierce, trying to unite the county in ideas and moving forward in a direction, and looking forward to that. And again, a happy new year to y'all.
All right.
Madam
And
Chair.
Commissioner Townsend.
I do want to say one more thing because I see our airport guys out there. I don't know if y'all have had the opportunity to go out there to the wonderful newly renovated restaurant, but you need to because it is the nicest restaurant as far as decor in St. Lucie County. I think you all will be very pleased with the way that it took place. We have a real FBO office, pilot's lounge, and if you've not met the new general manager out there, Zach, I think it's going to be moving a lot of stuff forward. Not that Chris didn't do a good job, but I'm excited for the future as with us and APP and where the airport's going.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
beautiful if you have not been there.
I've got to get back out there.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's above and beyond expectations.
I'm going to schedule a lunch at the Tiki just so I can make sure to get out there.
The decorating is impeccable. It's beautiful.
Thanks. They worked hard on that.
All right, Mr. Landry.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Cosby, my apologies.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I get out there for breakfast too. My family always gone out there
Do they
for
do
breakfast.
breakfast?
They used to. Do we still do breakfast?
Breakfast,
Breakfast?
Breakfast?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Go out there.
I'm trying to
Church
convince
for
them to do
breakfast.
dinner.
Nice.
I've only ever heard of the burgers.
Good breakfast. You see the
Yeah.
hopefully
Breakfast
some
is
commercial
Best
air
ham
flights
steak in
going by
St.
soon.
Lucie County.
So I just wanted to chime in off of a little bit off what we were talking about earlier this morning at our informal meeting. For those watching at home, we've kind of been here all day. I really want to challenge staff and administration that they should produce a rollback rate budget, right? So they can produce their normal budget that we typically would get, but I want a budget specifically that is funded only by what the rollback rate would allow. In fact, I've gone further in my own with the private hat on. I've talked to several state legislators, and some of them think it's a good idea that all governments should have to produce a full workable budget that meets the rollback rate for discussion purposes, if anything else. It's hard for us to sit up here as a Board of County Commissioners and really get to that micro level of deciding what we should cut, what we shouldn't cut. We don't necessarily have all of that information. So what would be best would be if administration gave us a budget that they could live with, that's funded by only the rollback rate, and we can have that discussion in the open. So from kind of what I heard earlier, it sounds like we're moving in that direction. So I think that this budget season should be one for the books.
All right. All right, Mr. Landry, upcoming meetings.
Thank you,
All
Madam Chair.
you.
Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, January 27, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers. And the Board of County Commissioners will also hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in these commission chambers located at 2300 Virginia Avenue here in Fort Pierce. And then Eric will close out with the 2 announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. There's no better way to get your children outside and build memories together in the great outdoors than Wild Together at the Oxbow Eco Center, running now through May. This experimental family learning series on nature, adventure, and survival skills takes place on select Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. The series explores practical tips and tricks for families to learn together as they feel more comfortable and connected, confident with the outdoors. It's designed for ages 8 to 13 and their guardians. The cost is $15 per person. Additional information is available on the Oxbow website at oxboweco.com. And in conjunction with the Florida section of the American Water Rescue Association, St. Lucie County's Public Utilities Department is hosting a Drop Savers poster contest for all St. Lucie County students, including public, charter, and homeschool students. The contest is designed to teach elementary school children and remind middle school and high school age children about the importance of water conservation. Entries are due on Friday, February 27th. Posters can be dropped off at the St. Lucie County Public Utilities Department located here at 2300 Virginia Avenue in Fort Pierce, or schedule a pickup by contacting St. Lucie County's Environmental Education and Outreach Manager Jenny Tomes at 772-782-4722, and that's also available on the homepage of the utilities website.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.